Thank you, Madam Speaker. Will the floor leader please rise for a quick question?
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. So if I'm to understand the entirety of this bill, the real goal and intent here is just to slow evictions. Am I correct on that?
The goal is to codify the governor's executive order, the governor's executive order with regard to the defenses that people can raise during a catastrophic health emergency and immediately after, and also indicate that during the health emergency that you can't raise the rent on tenants and you can't charge fines or fees.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Madam Speaker, I have an amendment at the desk. Amendment number 183326.
Amendment number 1.
So must be considered the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
Ladies and gentlemen, today is one of those rare days. I mean, this is rare. I've got an amendment in my hand that solves problems on both sides of what we were just talking about. Here's what it does. It speaks to the focus on a very small part of this bill that we were just discussing that says an eviction judgment may not be issued if a tenant can show substantial loss of income. And at the end of that, it says, or the need to miss work to care for a homebound school-age child. All of us. Well, I'm assuming you have heard from parents who had to sustain some of this loss of income because they had to stay home and become virtual school teachers to make sure their kids were actually up and turned on the iPad and turned on the computer or the Chromebook and hadn't fallen back to sleep or left the video camera on facing up towards the ceiling. And they were frustrated. I mean, some of these parents were really frustrated. Some of them took it okay. These are nice people, but even nice people have a turning point at some point. And I felt terrible for them. They were so frustrated that I almost considered calling the unemployment insurance line for them and waiting on hold for them just to take some of their burden away. So when I saw this in the bill, I agreed. Some of these people had a real loss of substantial income because they were forced to stay home. So I thought to myself, how can I really add something substantial and positive to both sides of this equation? Let's be honest, when the tenant entered into this lease, they did it knowing they had a certain amount of income. And now, because of something completely out of their control, it was gone, and financial burdens were put on their shoulders. And when the landlord entered into this lease, they too never expected any of this. But they were harmed as well in all of this. So we have essentially two innocent people involved in this bill. This bill seeks to solve the problem for one of them. I just wanted to see if we could solve it for both of them. So here's what I did. I went back and looked and said, some of these parents should be compensated. Maybe not with real dollars, but being able to stay in their home longer. But these landlords who still have a mortgage payment, who still have an insurance payment, who still have maintenance that they need to do, and are still paying taxes, which a large proportion goes to the education fund for the children that are now being taught virtually, but by the overseeing of their parent that has lost all this income. So here's what this amendment does. It offers a tax credit and a refund to the landlords who have tenants that experienced this real problem of loss of income because they had to stay home. And this tax credit is applied in the year that they had the loss. And I think it's going to have it's going to have the result of maybe some better relationships between these tenants and the landlords, because the tenant's not going to feel like the landlord's going to try to push me out any day now. But this tax credit can help the landlord get through some of these times of not getting any income at all. He's never going to be made whole, he or she, but this will help. It'll buy everybody some time, and it's necessary. So, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, there is nothing tricky in this bill. This amendment. This is simply trying to help out the landlords and the tenants with one amendment that speaks directly to the language of loss of income due to a school-aged child at home.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I appreciate the gentleman's intent here and the goal of this. I will say, first of all, in these conversations about landlords, small landlords in particular, that we have, on a bipartisan basis in this state, tried to do what we can to support them. The $70 million of rental relief that the governor dedicated in November, the $400 million of rental relief that's coming, help those small landlords, the $7.25 billion of PPP in the state, which is targeted at small business, help many of those landlords. And so I appreciate the gentleman is trying to help folks. I will say that I would ask the body to resist the amendment. I don't think this amendment is the way to do it, and for a very simple reason. This could be significantly expensive, but we don't know how expensive it is. And I think it would be fiscally irresponsible to add a floor amendment sight unseen with no clue of what the fiscal impact to the state would be. So, the gentleman, I think, has expressed a concern that I think is one we should consider, but I would suggest that this effort might be better placed in a separate piece of legislation. I'd ask the body to resist the amendment.
Madam Speaker.
The maker of the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Mr. Majority Leader. And you did bring up a great point. Nobody knows how much this is going to cost, because nobody knows how much money these landlords are going to lose. In the last conversation on the last amendment, it could be a year without receiving anything. Yet the taxes don't stop. The mortgages don't stop. The insurance doesn't stop. The maintenance does not stop. And if we start to have massive bankruptcies, or some of these landlords start to decide to just give up and sell their homes, or stop this process of being a landlord altogether, well, that hurts everybody, because that then starts to depress the amount of inventory. So every property then becomes more expensive. And if we do have a goal of more affordable housing, this does the opposite. This doesn't hurt a single tenant, which was the goal of the bill. But it does also help the landlords who are trying to survive. So for that reason, Madam Speaker, I push the amendment.